All right, so I'm going to do a short video on Father Heart of God. Today I'm going to look at Exodus chapter 4, so just continuing with my study of fathers in the Bible. So in Exodus chapter 4, Moses is called by God. God speaks to Moses, and then God, says to Moses, I will put my words in your mouth, and I will be with you. And Moses kind of grumbles and says, what happens if my people don't believe that you're with me? And God says, just tell them I'm the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He's saying he's the God of these people who the patriarchs who you've heard about, the good and the bad. Abraham was a man of faith, but he also lied. Isaac, he had his issues too. And Jacob, he had his issues too. And he was the one who wrestled with God all night. So, God is sometimes saying, look back at your ancestors, and I'm the God that was with your ancestors. I was the God that was with your missionaries. I was the God that was with your grandfather who believed in me, things like that. So it's interesting that Moses, has to have these signs from God, and God tells him to throw down his staff, and it becomes a snake. And that's pretty scary. And then God says, pick it up again. And Moses is obedient and he picks up the snake and it goes back to a staff. And then God says, put your hand into your cloak. And he did. And when he took it out, it was leprous. That's fearful. Leprosy in the Old Testament was a fearful disease. It killed you. It ostracized you. You were rejected from everyone. So that is a fearful sign to bring in the presence of the Hebrews if he was to do that, to make your flesh go into leprosy. So here we see Moses, the father, believing God, kind of negotiating with God, and God gets angry with him. You can read that. God gets furious with Moses just for not doing what he asked him to do. But Moses is hearing God's call on his life, and he's being obedient. So I'm going to pick this up in Exodus chapter 4, verses 18 through 21. So just listen to these words. Exodus chapter 4, verse 18. So Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, please let me go and return to my brethren who are in Egypt and see whether they are still alive. And Jethro said to Moses, go in peace. So here is, the priest of Midian, kind of where Saudi Arabia is, today. And in Hebrew for peace, it's shalom, and in Arabic, it's salam. And you will hear a greeting in those parts of the word that has that word peace in it, salam. It's a very common greeting there. If you ever go to like the east coast of Africa or any other Muslim states, you will hear salam in the language. So it's interesting that Moses' father-in-law released him in peace, but Moses asked to get out of his job because God had called him. So just a great relationship that Moses had with his father-in-law. And it says, now the Lord said to Moses and Midian, go return to Egypt, for all the men who sought your life are dead. So God gave Moses a revelation. It could be called a word of knowledge in the New Testament because it's a supernatural piece of information that Moses did not know, and it helped him. So that's what words of knowledge are useful for in the Old Testament, for giving you confidence. And in the New Testament, they give you confidence. A true word from God, a rhema word, a word of knowledge, a word of prophecy can give you confidence, and that's exactly what happened here. And then finally, verse 20 of Exodus chapter 4, then Moses took his wife and his sons and set them on a donkey, and he returned to the land of Egypt. And Moses took the rod of God in his hand. And the Lord said to Moses, when you go back to Egypt, see that you do all these wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in your hand, but I will harden his heart so that he will not let you go. So just remember that Moses took his whole family with him back to Egypt. He took his wife and he took his children. So there is a father heart right there. He's caring. He's providing for his family. He's getting out of the job if God has called him to a new job. He's righteous. He's providing for his wife transportation. And God really says that you are protected because I've taken or God says the people that were after you have now died. So mothers and fathers, especially fathers, this is aimed at, keep doing your job until God calls you to something else. And then usually God sometimes works in the miraculous to help us, to give us confidence, to affirm and reaffirm that he is with us like he was with Moses. He will sometimes open doors up. He will give you a new job. He will show you wonders so that we have confidence. God knows that we sometimes need a leg up. We need that faith-building moment with the Lord where we knew God was close to us. Okay, so that's my word for today. Lots in there in Exodus chapter 4. God bless you.